It is Steve Day. Hello, Steve.
Hey guys, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yes. You're coming through loud and clear. Steve, I think this is your fifth time on the Superbike show, I think. I think you've been on every single year, so you've been on with every single presenter that we've had. So thank you for coming back at least. And now you're coming back as the official lead commentator at Eurosport of BSB. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks for having me back. It's good to see everyone. And yeah, I'm really excited to get going. I mean, the news has finally been announced. I've been sitting on it for a few weeks and months, but yeah, can't wait. I just heard the start of your show and I think everybody agrees that it's one of the strongest seasons ahead for BSB as well, which makes it extra special for me. And I'm really looking forward to being able to catch up with a lot of familiar faces in the paddock that I've known for quite a few years. Obviously, having spent a few times out of the UK, it was really nice. I went to the Snetterton test a couple of weeks ago and it was really good to catch up with some faces and really got the juices flowing for the season. So yeah, I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, well, I suppose an obvious question to ask really, Steve, would be because you obviously you did MotoGP for so many years at the top of the industry, basically, working there. And it seemed at the time that you just sort of walked away from it all. Is that right?
Yeah. It was a bit of an odd one, I suppose. Nobody at Dorna really saw it coming, and it was a decision that kind of came out of the blue just from me, myself, to be honest. Having been with Dorna for 7 years, I've had an absolute blast. And I mean, I can imagine there'd be a lot of people that would think, why on earth would you leave a job like that? Because it has been so much fun. But when you've got a toddler at home and you're spending a lot of time watching your son grow on FaceTime and things like that, and you're constantly missing things. The calendar of MotoGP was getting bigger as well. I just felt like I needed a little bit of more time at home. I wanted to challenge myself. I got a couple of other projects going on at home as well. It was a big decision. I mean, I'll be honest, Lester, it wasn't something that just happened overnight. It wasn't something I just decided on and thought, yeah, okay, let's walk away, because it takes quite a lot of thought to get through. And I spoke to my wife and I thought about my family and my friends. And yeah, in the end, I just decided, you know what? With a bit of luck, maybe in the future, because I certainly haven't walked away because of a feud or because I don't like MotoGP, obviously. I just thought I can maybe, hopefully one day, maybe go back if I want to, but I cannot get this time back with my son while he's growing up. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this plunge. There's a lot of people in the paddock I speak to who were saying that they've basically, in the blink of an eye, their kids have become teenagers and 20-year-olds, and so I thought, I don't know if I want that to happen. So that's the main reason for me moving away from MotoGP. But I do hope that one day in the future, maybe I can return. But for now, I'm just really focused on being at home and obviously looking forward to the season ahead.
Yeah, well, that's a nice explanation, and yeah, the way that you say it, it sort of makes sense. You know, obviously, it's a lifestyle choice, and nobody can really criticise you for that. Oh, nobody should do anyway. But
Sure.
I'm sure you've read comments, but ignore them.
I think that, to be honest, if you've not got massive commitments at home, it's arguably one of the best jobs in the world. There's no doubt about it. And I've had so much fun traveling the world with some great people, learning a lot along the way. But I just thought now is the time just to step away. So yeah, we'll see in a few years whether that was a good decision or not.
Well, I'm going to wish you all the very best in your new job, and also doing a bit of TT coverage as well. So that should be good for you. Right. So we do have quite a lot of people who want to ask you questions. I hope I've not just stolen all their questions. Let's start with another Superbike show presenter, Luke Newman, this year. Luke, what have you got for Steve?
Hello, Steve. First of all, thanks for coming on. Which track are you most looking forward to be commentating on BSB at this year?
Right, well, I think for me, one of my favourite circuits growing up was always Brands Hatch, the GP circuit. Especially given that as a kid, I used to go on the back of my dad's bike and those amazing World Superbike rounds in the 90s where the place was packed. And there's just something about it. It's a great atmosphere there. So I'm looking forward to Snetterton purely because it feels like home to me. So I'm looking forward to that, but that's just purely selfish. But I've commentated a lot on some of the other circuits, but I've never commentated on a big gig at Brands. So that is something that I'm really looking forward to because when I went to World Superbike, Brands was already off the calendar, unfortunately. So that is definitely the one for me. Luckily, we go there twice, so mega bonus, and hopefully it goes all the way down to the last round.
Okay, let's go back to what we were just discussing before you joined us. What do you think of the Taryn McKenzie crash in news? I'm assuming you've also seen the crash.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've had a bit of a busy day because I've been looking after my toddler with my wife today and been cooking dinner and stuff. I've been keeping an eye on things. I'm really gutted. I mean, I think in any sport, when you see somebody getting injured before the start of the season, it's horrible to see, and particularly the champion, the defending champion. I saw Taryn at Snetterton and I had a chat with him, and he just got over this other broken leg and the injury, and I'm gutted. I mean, I don't know the full extent of the injury yet, but it's not looking great for him for round one. But I'm heading over to Silverstone tomorrow, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to find out a little bit more information. But yeah, speedy recovery to Taz. It's such a shame, and I hope that it's not as bad as it sounds, so that we can see the number one plate on the grid at the start of the season. But yeah, it's gutting news for everyone.
Let's go with a big question now. Who do you think will be champion at the end of the year from what you've seen so far? Let's get the question out of the way.
Yeah, well, I had a feeling this might come up. This is difficult. I think it's impossible. It really is. I've looked through the list, and I think when I went to Snetterton, I was walking past the garages, and I looked in every garage, and I thought, I cannot believe the depth of talent in this championship. It is impossible to call. Do you know what? I don't know.
Give us a couple names.
I can't believe this. I've literally been in the job for a couple of minutes, and I'm being asked to pick a champion. Do you know what? I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for one of the Aussies. I think Jason O'Halloran can kind of learn from what happened at the end of last year. His form was so good throughout the season. And I think he must be so hungry to come back and do it again. And so I think that right now, back against the wall, I'd maybe go for someone like Jason O'Halloran, but I wouldn't want anyone to discount Josh Brooks. He looked really good at Snetterton. He looked really confident in himself, looked like he had that swagger back. And of course, he's a double British Superbike champion. So, he knows how to do it. He's got a very competitive new teammate, which I'm fascinated to see how that all gets on. For now, I'm going to go for Jason O'Halloran, Luke. But, I mean, that could change pretty quickly.
Well, yeah. Fair enough. What do you think of people like Haslam and Sykes returning to Britain? How do you think they'll get on the season?
Well, Haslam obviously is a former champion. I think he's going to go well. Obviously, the talent, I think, is upped since he last came. I think it's going to be a bit more of a challenge. He's obviously got a busy season ahead now. He's announced as the World Superbikes wildcards. But he'll be there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He'll definitely be there. As for Sykesy, I'm really, really happy to see that Tom hasn't retired. I think a lot of people were worried that he might after that big crash at the end of last year. And like Josh Brooks, when I went to the Paul Bird garage, he seemed to have his swagger back as well. And he had a smile on his face, more importantly. And Tom is, he's a World Superbike champion. And I was really impressed to see how well he went at Snetterton as well, because he'd never seen that circuit layout. The last time he went, at turn 2, he just went straight down. And so that was encouraging, I think, for Tom Sykes fans. So I think they'll both be in the showdown. I think you'd have to be mad to not think they would be. But you never know. As much as I think they will be, given the strength of the field, I wouldn't be, jaw on the floor dropped if they weren't. So I think that's the good thing about the championship in general. But they're both great. And I think I've seen a lot of comments from a lot of people saying, they may be taking up seats for younger riders. But the field's packed full of riders, young and old. And I think you need that bit of experience there. I just think it makes for a great championship. And so good luck to them both.
Have you got one final question, Luke? We've got a couple of different people wanting to chomping at the bit to...
yeah, that's all I've got.
Oh, okay, fair enough. There you go then. Dawn, do you have any burning questions for Steve?
Yeah, which has been the best ever MotoGP press conference that you've done that sticks in your mind?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, obviously, the Valentino Rossi retirement press conference probably will always live with me. As a kid, watching on the sofa, watching Valentino, when I first came into MotoGP, to have the opportunity to speak to him, I must admit that with most riders, I can kind of keep my composure. And the first time I met him, I was a bit, ooh, this is funny. And he's a legend. So that is always going to stick out. But I think when you see raw emotion in people after races as well, after they've won races, that is such a nice thing. And Danilo Petrucci's win in Mugello a few years ago, that Sunday in general for me sticks out as one of my favourite ever memories, because his story is just from zero to hero, rags to riches kind of story. So, and he was crying in the press conference and there were hugs everywhere, and I really struggled to keep it together myself. So that was, I'd say that's my favourite, but the one that will obviously, because it was more recent, I suppose, will stick out is the Valentino retirement press conference. But yeah, one of those two, I think.
Thank you.
Oh, is that okay? I mean, fair enough. There you go. You did ask and you did find out. Jack, do you have anything for Steve?
Yeah. What do you think is what's different between the MotoGP and BSB paddocks from what you've been through over the years?
It's an interesting one because I've kind of gone full circle, really. When I first started watching racing, I was watching British Superbike, and then I managed to get a chance to ride myself, and so I went behind the scenes of BSB, and so that was home for quite some time. And then you go to do world stuff, and everything is different. Obviously, there's a lot more money involved in MotoGP, and so everything does look a little bit more grand initially. I think the biggest difference that I'll face is because when you're doing commentary, stuff kind of is quite similar. You're going from a hotel to the paddock and you're getting on with your work. But I'm really looking forward to the accessibility that I'll have. Just at the Snetterton test alone, being able to go into the garages and actually speak to the riders face to face. And some of them, because I already know them, that is really, really handy for me. And having an open conversation and asking them how they're feeling, how they're getting on, how is their day, rather than sitting or standing out the back with a microphone for 45 minutes sometimes waiting for a MotoGP rider to come out and talk. And the team's not really letting you in. So I think that will be the biggest difference from my perspective in terms of the racing. I don't really pay too much attention to that because I think good racing is good racing. It doesn't matter what level it is. If it's good racing, I love it. So, of course, MotoGP is the pinnacle of the sport. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the fact that I can actually go up and speak to people when I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how they're getting on today. I can just go and ask them, which is going to be fantastic for me. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And Jay, also on the show as well. Jay, any questions for Steve?
Hello, Steve. Before I just ask you a question, I think your first ever commentating job was in a race I was in at Mallory Park, Thundersport, I would say about 2008. And I think it was your first ever time commentating.
So
that's about right.
Yeah, it might not be too far away, actually, Jay. You must be from my neck of the woods as well with that accent.
I am. I'm from Belton. You would have commentated on my brother a lot.
Wow, okay. Who's your brother?
Charlie King. He now works for Alpine Star with MotoGP.
Oh, you were brothers. There you go.
Yeah.
New for me. Yes, I speak to Charlie regularly, so that's cool. Yeah, well, I'm from Lowestoft, so we're not far away at all.
Not far away.
We've actually done this together. So yeah, my first ever commentary was actually at Snetterton because in 2008, earlier in the year, because you probably remember a commentator called Robin Murphy. He was ill at the time, and so I stepped in on the day to do that. But yeah, that first year I did TV presenting with Jenny Gow, and so we were on the grid doing stuff like that. And Mallory Park was the very first round, and so. Yeah, that was my first ever experience doing the TV side of racing. And it's a strange world because I found out a couple of days ago when I go to the TT, the hotel I'm staying at, I think I'm going to be traveling with Jenny. So again, it's gone kind of full circle. So yeah, blast from the past, 2008. I mean, for me, it seems like yesterday still. And yet, wow, what are we, 14 years ago? Gosh, yeah. A long time ago, but okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So when you said you were calling it a day with MotoGP, did you know that this BSB job was coming up, or were you just finishing and just hoping that something would come up?
From my perspective, I had for some time deliberated over leaving MotoGP anyway. It's always very difficult to walk out of a job without having anything in place. Is always really, really difficult, but because I've been doing some other bits and bobs, I felt like, I don't want to sound cocky, but I felt confident I would find something else to be able to carry on with. I've got some children's book stuff going on, and I felt like I could maybe go and, worst case scenario, there are a few other things I could go and do, and I could go and go back to grassroots racing or anything like that. So I kind of already made the decision that I was going to walk away before this came up. So in terms of the BSB job, nothing was really secure or set in stone with that until earlier this year. And so, yeah, the decision to leave was already kind of in my mind. I'm going to walk away before I got any kind of word from Eurosport or BSB, for sure.
You told us all about the glamorous stuff about going on the circus with MotoGP, but there must be bits that you're just glad to get away with, like the constant waiting in airports and things like that. Is there other things that you're happy to see the back of?
There is, to be honest. Obviously, I can't honestly sit here and say to you that there was any sort of job was bad, because I'd be lying. I mean, everyone can see what it is. You're commentating on MotoGP and you get paid to talk about MotoGP, so that cannot be bad. But yeah, there are bad bits. I hate airports. Believe it or not, when I first started MotoGP, I actually had a fear of flying, which is crazy. And it took me ages to get over that. And even now, I still have to have certain things and certain podcasts downloaded in order to just take my mind off flying. Also, just I really found it. I struggled with insomnia in hotel rooms, different locations, and there would just be some days where logistically it would all go wrong. The last couple of years with COVID,
must have been tough.
An absolute disaster. I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure whether or not I would have felt the same as I do now pre-COVID. I mean, things were starting to ease up quite a bit when I made my decision anyway, but it was a horrible couple of years for that. You'd go away from home, I'd say goodbye to my wife, say goodbye to my little boy, and not really know if I'm going to be back in the next 5 or 6 weeks because of restrictions and tests and stuff. And so I certainly won't miss that. But there is an awful lot I will miss, obviously. I miss a lot of people. I won't miss early starts in the morning, the really early starts, especially when some circuits were absolutely packed full. That was about the only bonus of COVID, was that the circuits obviously didn't have any fans, so you could a lay-in. So yeah, I think every job has its pros and cons. But for me, for sure, traveling was the worst. I'm not a great traveller, and I'm not missing that much at the moment.
Cheers, Steve. We'll have to meet up at some point. Sees now we know we're local.
Well, I was thinking, and you did mention, Steve, that you maybe had a thought to do some more grassroots racing, perhaps, or maybe even. I don't know. You'd be always welcome in the Fab Racing commentary box, if albeit for a race. I don't think we could afford any more than that, to be honest. But yeah, since we live stream the Fab Racing Championship, and Jay is also a pit bike champion, and previous stuff with your own racing, you'd be more than welcome. And we do go to Ella Park later in the season at the kart track, so.
Send me the day, and I might pop along, provided the weather's all right. I'm a fair weather man, I'll be honest. I mean, I have to see what the weather's like. No, that sounds good. Good.
And also you could probably chalk it up as research, because a lot of the graduates from Fab Racing end up in the British Talent Cup and in Moto3 now as well. So there you go. Good way to keep an eye on people. But since I can't believe nobody's actually asked this yet, so I'm going to. MotoGP, Marc Marquez. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased to see that he's racing again in Austin. I do think that he's box office entertainment. He's, one of the best riders. And many people will argue probably the best, but that depends on who you like and generation. So to have him racing, I think, is a major benefit. But I have to say, personally speaking, I do worry. He's won 8 championships, and I worry about his physical and side of things in terms of the double vision. I worry that what happens if another crash happens and it's double vision again, and what happens if ultimately, I don't know, not a doctor, but what happens if one day somebody says, okay, double vision's never going to go? And I think you have to sometimes at some point stop and say, okay, the risks are kind of overtaking the rewards here. But it is Marc Marquez, I do understand that. He does things his own way, and he's won 8 world championships doing things his way. So who am I to sit here and say that? But I just worry in general. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to see him having to retire because of injury or because of this. I'd like to think that at some point he'd be able to walk away himself without being forced to. There's no doubt that he's got the capabilities of winning. I mean, goodness me, he'll probably go to Austin this weekend and win. It wouldn't surprise anyone, would it?
No.
So I do think he's fantastic entertainment. I love watching him race. So I'm delighted he is. But at the same time, deep down inside, every single time he crashes at the moment, I'm wincing, worrying that something big is going to happen. And the thing is with MotoGP, as we're all seeing, the level of competition has gone up, strength and depth has gone up, and it's going to be harder for him to win as the years go on, because unfortunately, as we can all probably argue in this chat room in the moment, age catches up on you, and he's not a whippersnapper anymore. So I don't know. I hope that he doesn't have to walk away because of injury. I do worry that he can't, that there's nobody there that can just say, Mark, come on, it's round 2. You didn't need to go out that much. But there'll be an awful lot of people that would argue that.
I mean, he's sort of done it before, though. He's I don't want to say too much. I don't want to jinx him, basically. But yeah, I
don't think anyone wants to jinx him. I just think that it's got to a point now where he went so many years scot-free. He went so many years where he was indestructible. This almost like a Terminator on circuit. I mean, even a crash he managed to save every single time. And now things are getting a little bit more serious. And I think that just from a human point of view, no one really wants to see him get seriously hurt. I think that's the be all and end all. But at the same time, I'd love to see him go out there and challenge with the top guys, because all of these guys who are fighting, you know, they want to fight with Marc Marquez as well. They want to win a race with Marc on circuit. So it's just a matter of whether or not he's able to mentally rein it in or not, I suppose.
So from what you've seen so far, from as much as what you've seen with all your, I guess you pay most attention to the family now, but from what you've seen in MotoGP, everything considered, if you had to put, let's say, 20 quid on a champion this year?
Goodness me, you like good. Honestly, I don't know, Lester. I really don't know. It's such a tough one to call, because
now you're out of the paddock. No one's going to pull you up and be like, "You what, mate? What you don't think I can win?"
You see the social media over the last couple of days. People have definitely. Listen, I think that 3 races, 3 different winners, 9 different riders on the podium tells you that it's impossible to call. And I heard a podcast recently with Simon Crafar, and he mentioned that until we get to Europe, we might not see this name appearing. And I do think that that's true. I'm really surprised, I have to admit, at what's happened to the factory Ducatis, because Pecco Bagnaia for me at the start of the year would have probably been my standout. I would have picked him at the start of the year. Yeah. If I was going to have 20 quid, I'd have picked Pecco.
Yeah, a lot of people fell for that one.
But he could still win it. You know, the championship, because of the way the first 3 rounds have gone, the points have been spread out quite nicely. You know, if Marc wins in Austin, is someone going to rule him out? You just wouldn't. So I don't know. It's such a tough one to call. Who would I go for? You know what? If Suzuki can sort the bike out, and it genuinely is competitive everywhere, I think Joan Mir could win it again.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
But there's so many riders I'd love to see winning it as well. I'd be happy for Joan. I'd be happy for anyone. Love to see Brad win it, Brad Binder. That would be amazing. But you never know with KTM. I'd love to see Jack and Pecco competitive again. And so there's so many riders out there. And Jorge Martin, despite his first 2 rounds, Jorge Martin is an absolute machine. He's such a weapon. If there was any rider that could win the championship as an independent rider, it would be him, I think.
Okay. All right. So there we go. Interrogation over. You can breathe a sigh. You did well. Sorry to put you on the spot, but so many times. But Steve, thank you for coming on the Superbike Show again in 2022. And I guess we'll try and keep in touch. And I guess BSB will be a different animal for you. You get to, as you say, there's a totally different maybe vibe to GP, and crowds will be something that you're used to, of course. But there'll be people from down the road now instead of Malaysia and stuff. So there you go. Just quickly, since you did mention, and I wanted to mention it and not forget, because I am sometimes guilty of forgetting stuff, your book that you wrote and published as well. Tell us quickly about that and what it's about and who it's for and how people can enjoy it.
Yeah, that was a bit of a curveball, that one.
I didn't want to forget, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, the book basically came about. It's something that when I was a kid, I really enjoyed doing. I used to love reading children's books, and I had a bit of a creative mind, and so having a son, making up stories to try and get him to sleep, I just started having this idea, maybe I should try and write one. And so I wrote down some ideas, and then lockdown came along in March 2020, and it was the perfect time. Everything had come to a halt. There was no racing, so I thought I'll really, really go hard on this and try and get something together. And it was very, very difficult. Loads of publishers and agents said no, and eventually somebody took it on, and it was good fun. It was a really fun process. Completely different world to what I'm used to. But the book is called That Leopard Is So Rude. It's for children. But for reading children, I would say from sort of 3 to 6. But to be honest, it will expand if parents read it 2 to 7. I'd say you could probably go that far. And it's a rhyming picture book. That Leopard Is So Rude, and it's available on. I suppose the easiest way for anyone in the UK to buy it would be on Amazon. So you just go onto Amazon and just type in That Leopard Is So Rude, and it, with a bit of luck, should appear. So,
is there an audiobook version for people?
A few people have said about that. Have you thought about doing an audiobook yourself? And I'd love to, but it's actually more difficult than you think to try and get that sorted out.
All right.
I've had a right drama trying to get that done. So I don't know. Well, I'll maybe just have to do one on Facebook or something and just post it. I don't know. We'll work something out. But yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I've got another one written as well, and hopefully that'll come out at some point soon. Everyone keeps on asking me to do one about bike racing, but it's a bit niche, isn't it? So we'll see. But yeah, thanks. And yeah, it's been good fun. So that's where people can get it.
Yeah, no, well, once again, thank you for coming on the show again. I think you are actually the guest with the most appearances on this show, because you've been on with Tom Brooks and Liam and Kiko, and I can't remember if you were on with Tristan or not, and who are all coincidentally at one time now or previously works at Dorna. So yeah, I don't know. There you go. Hey ho. So anyway, enjoy BSB. If we don't speak again, I'm sure we will. But yeah, there you go. And yeah, keep on doing stuff, and we might even try and drag you into a fab paddock, either talking about or on an actual bike of some description. That'd be good, Jay, wouldn't it? Anyway, thank you, Steve.
We're getting on the pit bike.
Yeah, exactly. We get Tristan back as well, and Liam and stuff. Anyway, right, so we'll let you go. Enjoy your evening, Steve. Thank you very much. Super to have you on the show. And yeah, thank you. And good night, Steve.
This is Motorsport Radio.
1, 2.
Join the conversation. Contact the show on Twitter, on Facebook, and on our website, Motorsport Radio.